All right, I am so off key today. So if anybody's wondering, my name is Rochelle Walker. I am CEO and founder of Hughes Walker Group. We are an accounting, payroll, HR, and business advisory firm based in the Kansas City area. And if I do that, you can see what the agenda is for today. We're going to talk about these things as quickly as we possibly can because I'm more of a person that likes to engage people in the activities. So don't feel shy. Everybody notice that you have some color pieces of paper on those. On your tables, you also have some goodies for you to kind of wake yourself up, some sugar if you need it. And after my morning, I probably need to eat the whole room. So our company is based here in Kansas City. We are also co-located in Atlanta, Georgia, and the St. Louis area. So as well as, I forget where our associates are, which is in Iowa City, Los Angeles, Kansas City, and St. Louis. We are totally remote. We opened with that intent in mind. And there's a backdrop to that, as there always is. So back in 2000, 2001, we had a contract with the state of Missouri. We had to open an office in the Jefferson City area, and we were a subcontractor under a prime. The prime contractor gave up their contract, which meant we lost our contract. Our contract insisted that we have the office in Jeff City. I then had to go negotiate with the owner of the building that we were leasing from and beg his forgiveness not to make me pay a year worth of rent. At that point, I decided if I ever ventured out again, it would not be in an office space. I'm done. I had to lay my people off. It was just the most horrible experience that I can ever have. And shortly after that, several other things happened which caused us to close the business from 2001 until we reopened in 2017. Mostly my illnesses. So just kind of want to give you a backdrop. You're not the only ones going through all the drama of running a business. It happens to all of us at some point in time. You just have to figure out where your resiliency is and how you're going to pick yourself up and start all over again. So the topics today are understanding the different pricing strategy. What are they? What challenges do you face as a small business owner with doing that? And I'm gonna take this out because I like to move. We have some interactive group exercises. They're not bad. There are only 3. I changed it because I thought the room was going to be too many people and it was going to be too intense. And now that I see that I don't have the 60 people that were registered, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable than I was this morning when I left the house. Okay? And then at the conclusion, we'll recap the pricing strategies, talk about adapting to changes, what we learned, how the economic shifts happen, customer needs, market trends, and we'll close. I went to a session a few moments ago and they let me know that I need to let you know how vulnerable I am and how human I am. I forgot to have evaluations for the course. So you don't have to worry about it. There may be one on the GEC one, but GEWKC, and that's fine. I can take that feedback any way it comes, all right? So, and please don't hesitate to stop me and ask me questions, okay? Because it's better if you ask while you're thinking about it. I want to make sure of that. So, if you had to identify and write down a pricing strategy approach that you are unaware of, write it down. I'm going to ask you throughout the course to write down things that hit you that you weren't aware of before you walked in this room. And my purpose for doing that will come at the end when I ask you to take one thing, and I'm going to put a box up here on this front table, and I'm going to ask you on a piece of paper to write down one thing that you will implement immediately. Okay? Pricing is not something you do today and forget it. It's an ongoing process. Trust me, I am so tired of looking at our costs and trying to figure out, are we making money or not? So it happens to us all. Okay. So what's the effectiveness of pricing? What do we learn from it? So we learn, first of all, that we're going to maximize our profitability. We know that we have all these costs that come in every month. But if we're not looking at them, if we're not watching them, they can sneak up on you, and it will erode what profit you may have had. So you need to make sure that you are covering your costs and that you're generating a profit. And always, always look at your bottom line. What are your profit margins? How many of you in here use accounting software, or are you at that point? Just raise your hand if you use an accounting software. Great. Those of you who are still on paper and pencil, here's some words for you. By the time the ink hits the paper and you take the effort to write it down, it's out of date. You want me to repeat that? No, I'm serious. It is. It's out of date by the time you write it down. So if you're looking at your profit margin and you are doing it manually, writing it down, by the time you get to the end of the page, somebody walked in and bought something. Somebody returned something. So it's out of date. You need something a little bit more dynamic. It enhances your competitiveness. When you're in a market where things are constantly changing, as they are in our world today, because people have social media, they get all these ads across social media. That's not counting the paper that hits your mailbox on a weekly or daily basis. It makes it hard. So you have to know that you're going to be competitive across the platform. The market is crowded. We all know that. It's just a matter of trying to reflect that and still ensure that we have profitability. It reflects our value to our customers, right? Customers don't buy things that they don't value. They buy things that they need and value and want, or the kids want. Okay? Right? So I tease my sons about my granddaughters. They feel like they have to have every new iPhone that comes out, right? Except I'm paying for it. So I have one that traditionally, about a year in, she finds a way to break her phone. So I had to point blank tell her, if you continue to break your phone, know that this is the last one that I'm paying for. The next one's on you. Okay? She stopped breaking phones. So it supports your brand positioning. Pricing plays a role in that. And I just left a social media mindset session, and they were talking about how you need to get in a social media mindset. You need to brand yourself. You need to understand. What I didn't hear her say was that pricing played a part in the mindset of your customers or your future clients. Because if they don't think that what you're doing is important, 9 chances out of 10, they're not going to buy from you. So premium pricing, make sure you're pricing to cover everything, and we're going to talk about some of that today. So if you have your business, which of these 4 pricing strategies do you know you are using? Anybody want to take a guess? Just kind of raise your hand. How many cost plus? 1. Anybody else in here retail? Retail pretty much uses cost plus. Restaurants pretty much use cost plus. Value-based. Okay. I see hands go up about value-based. Unfortunately, that was the exercise that I took out because it is so intense to explain. And when I put the poll up, I didn't see a lot of people's answering that. So I said, well, we won't do a whole lot of talking about value-based pricing. But I do have an exercise that I'm kind of going to go over. Competitive pricing. Anybody in here use competitive? You do. You think. What makes you think?
So I don't want my customers to go to someone else because their prices are cheaper than mine. So I'm looking at my competition, and that's kind of one of the things that decides where I'm going to put my price.
Okay, exactly. Anybody know what dynamic pricing is? Huh? Fluctuating. What about you?
Yeah, this was, so I think I use dynamic, but I'm not familiar with the term. So I think dynamic pricing is when I have a base price that I will pretty much give to most people, but I do have some times where I take into consideration, like, does their value align closely with mine? Do I think they'll be a repeat customer, et cetera, and then I price accordingly.
Are you service-based or are you
I'm a service-based.
more product-based? Okay. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say you're probably more value-based than anything, but depending on season and what your services are, you may fall down in that dynamic one. You may be blending it.
So would dynamic pricing be offering specials at certain times of the year, that kind of thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
Black Friday. Okay, Christmas sales, air conditioner, heat, HVAC companies, you know.
Rental properties, what are the daily based on? Value?
Yeah, they're going to be more competitive. But yeah, the HVAC companies, I mean, did anybody see ramp up? You know, hey, you can get pay for your furnace, and we'll give you your air conditioning free right now if your furnace goes out. Trust me, there's a cost associated with that somewhere in there. Okay, just no way. Hey, I'm not gonna say not free, but I'm gonna say there is an adjustment somewhere. Okay, so here's some of the things about the pricing strategies that we find most effective for you and kind of gives an explanation. So the cost plus involves calculating your total price for your product or service. The benefits, straightforward, easy to implement. You don't have to worry about it. You can use it. It's predictable, stable, all those things. Doesn't consider market demand or competition. It's just there, okay? How do you calculate it? In this particular instance, and I kind of left this up here, so some of you who are going to do one of the exercises, this slide will come back to catch you. Ingredient cost plus the labor cost plus your overhead, that's sum times the markup percentage. Loaded labor costs, though, includes your hourly rate, Social Security, Medicare, work comp, and your benefits, and your unemployment tax. Do I need to say those again? Your rate times your Social Security times your Medicare times your unemployment rate times your work comp rate. How many of you calculate your price that way? I can tell you that the clients that come to us, most of the time, leave all that tax stuff out. And we can spot it on a dime as that's the reason why their profit margin is negative. That's the first thing that they leave out. Okay? So we talked a little bit about dynamic, setting the price in real time. That's kind of hard to do. I mean, you really have to know your market, right? Knows what your customer behavior is going to be. What are they going to react to? Okay? Competitor prices and other external factors. The economy shifting. We all know it's about to shift, right? So you raise your price when your demand is high. You lower your price when your demand is low. It's flexible to your market needs. It's based on demand, supply, competition, or time throughout a day. Keep that one in mind. Disadvantage, customer perception, complex implementation, price wars. So, on Black Friday, Walmart posts that they're going to sell that 72-inch TV at $800, and somebody comes in up under them, Best Buy or somebody comes in and says, we're going to sell it for $750. That's what you're demand pricing. So you have to calculate your cost of goods sold, materials, your labor costs, your overhead costs, and you mark it up with your percentage, your gross profit margin that you want, and then you have a plus or minus percentage that you add to it. So if your profit margin is normally 30% and it's high demand season, you may mark it up to 35 or you may mark it up to 40. If it's a low demand season, you may do 20%. If you have repeat customers, you may do something entirely different, okay? Value-based pricing, let's talk about competitive first. I want to talk about competitive first because you need to understand all three of them and when you get in before you get in value-based. And I meant to flip them on the slide, but again, I'm human, I forgot. So it's market-oriented, based on your competitors. 9 chances out of 10, you have to do some market research to know what your competitors are doing. Now, market research can take its form in multiple ways, right? I can walk in every competitor's store, look at the items that they're selling versus what I'm selling, and write down the prices, right? Or you can hire a firm to do market research. Most of us can't do that. But another way is you can always do a Google search. If you know who your competitors are, just Google it and watch what comes up. It works. We don't have to be innovative and have a lot of dollars to find the information we need. We just need to know how to use the sources that we have to get the information that we need. Google is great. You can Google anything. I won't give you the name of the acronym because I'm on camera that my grandkids use, but it's, GTS. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, so again, the market research is in there. Decision. Are you aligning with the area? You're aligning with the industry? Are you aligning with your values? Okay? I didn't put the word values up there, but it has to align with what you believe you need to provide to your customers or clients. And if it doesn't, you're going to be miserable. And for those of us who are in the service industry, that really hits home. That really hits home. You have to know your costs for your product or service. You can't just not know. If anybody saw how much software we as a company invest in, what we have to pay out on an annual basis, they would not question our prices. Because my cost factors, just to keep your data safe, that the federal government says I have to do, just like a big bank, I have the same requirements that Commerce Bank, U.S. Bank, Community American Credit Union, I have the same requirements. I cannot let somebody hack our systems. So my costs are really high because every time I look up, the cost has gone up. And every time I add a person, it goes up even more. So you have to know your costs. You have to understand what your profit margin is. Maybe you're not into the 30%. Maybe you don't mind having a 20% profit margin. But that's an individual decision. I can't make it for you. I can tell you why you're losing money, but I can't tell you what to do to make all this other stuff work. I can look at your costs and I can tell you, are you using this piece of software? Are you really using it? I go through every time, at this time of year, I go through a cycle. I have a spreadsheet that has every piece of software on it that we have. And at year end, I go back and I look to see how much I paid for it this year. And if the numbers ain't jiving, I go look for a competitor's software package. Okay? That's less. That provides the same level of service, gotta have the same level of service. So I look at those things. And then you wanna set your price close to or under your competition. Value-based, on the other hand, says you have to know what your customer values. What's important to them? So, service industries pretty much use value-based more than anybody else. And I'm gonna include me, but I don't really use that only, okay? We have like a 10 or a 15-minute questionnaire that kind of tells us what's important to you when you come to us. What's your pain point? What's the thing that is nagging you the most? I can tell you right now, when most people come to us, what do you think they say? Anybody got any ideas what they would say to us when they come to us and they come to us for accounting or payroll? They're hemorrhaging money. What was it that you said? Inflation. That's a good one. That's a good one. Anybody else? Inefficiency. Yep. Here's the one you haven't said. I don't want to do this. This is not why I opened my business. This is not what I want to do on a day-to-day basis. I am not a number cruncher, okay? That's the number one thing we hear. I don't want to do this. I didn't go into business to do this. Oh, well, there's a little problem with that. To stay in business, you got to do it, okay? So you have to know what's important, what's their pain point, and establish your price at a balance between the perceived price, the competitor price, and what are you improving for the client.
So I do cybersecurity. I like what you mentioned earlier. Great. But when it comes to value-based, I find it hard for people to truly understand the value in cybersecurity. They're like, yeah, it's data. And, I probably won't get hacked because, the big companies or whatever, right? Like, I see the value in it and trying to explain that to them. But I forgot what it was.
So, and let me think for you just for a moment. I think your question is, how do I show them or make them think about their value?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have a questionnaire?
Yeah.
Does it ask them what their pain point is?
Yeah.
Do you probe further about it when you're asking them? Okay, you mentioned you don't think you're going to get hacked. How many employees do you have? Right? That would be my first question. If they have employees, how many employees do you have? Okay? How do you know that the employee is not going to hit a link where it's a phishing link and going to destroy my whole infrastructure? Okay? Yeah, I may think I'm not going to get hacked. Here's another question for them. Do you have your employees going through cybersecurity training? If you don't, why not? Right? The issue is to get them thinking.
Help them build that on their own, I guess.
Right. How to build that thought process on their own.
Well, that's my thing, though. I don't want to be scary.
You don't want to
All
be
of the other cyber teams do scary, and I'm trying not.
you don't want to be scary, but the only way you're going to reel them in is to make them think. You really have to make them think. You had a question.
So my industry is handmade wire wrap jewelry, and I use semi-precious stones,
Mm-hmm.
and I use different types of metals.
Okay.
So including sterling silver, 14 karat gold, and lesser value items. The biggest concern that I see is, for example, if I want to make a necklace that's made out of the stone called Larimar,
Mhm.
right now, a lot of the Larimar caves have cooled because they're mining out.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's expensive.
yes, it's growing because as of just not even 6 months ago, a lot of the mines have closed. So that brings the value of that particular stone up. But I can't get my customers to understand that the value of these stones are becoming more and more.
Precious.
Yes. And then as far as the utilization of sterling silver versus,
Just regular.
regular.
Yeah, that's stuff that will,
Yeah.
it'll turn green.
So there is, it's like, how do which pricing structure am I using? Because at first I thought it was gonna be value price, but what I've always tried to go by is double your supplies and add your time. Because I'm literally buying all these items, I put them together, create peace, and then sell. And I don't, and in your first example, you didn't, where you explained, that I'm not including
Your labor costs.
cost down
Mhm.
below. So I don't know which structure to use. It's always been something. I Google it, I try to look up what's the best thing. And I don't.
Have you talked to other jewelers?
Yeah, and they pretty much just use that. Your supplies and add your time, but if you really want to make a
Yeah, there definitely is, and that's not something that I can say off the top of my head. I'd have to really think through that because unlike hers, I came out of the IT space. Okay, so I didn't just happen into accounting. I loved accounting before I did IT. So the fact that I did IT, I know some of the stuff and the pain and the stuff that goes on. But you really might want to talk to other people who are under the, I can't think of the name of the law. It came out, it was effective June 2023. That's June 9th, 2023. I can be that specific. I can find it for you, but I can tell you it is costing me a fortune. Because it's the one that says, if I get hacked, for every customer piece of data, I am fined $5,000 to $10,000. So ask them how they pass their information to their accountant, HR person. I cannot tell you how many times I tell people, do not send my email a piece of information that has a social security number, name, address, phone number in it. I will delete it. I'm not even going to open it because of the June 9th, 2023 law. Okay? So here's some challenges that we have to overcome. The CVFP don't necessarily ring true to maybe what's up there, but it gives you a good idea of the information, you know, your cost factor. What's a direct cost versus an indirect cost? Rent is indirect. Benefits for your admin staff. Your admin staff is indirect cost. Those are the things that every business ought to be tracking. Your markup percentage, like I said, that's a personal thing. Maybe you don't want 30%, but you monitor and adjust accordingly. What value or need are you satisfying with your customer? Are you aligning your price to the customer perceived value? We all have perceptions. My perception may not be your perception. So I can't walk in a room and say, well, you know, you got to accept my price. That don't work. I have to prove to you that I am of value to you as a service provider or as I'm buying something from you. I have to show you that I can do it. Customer testimonials are the greatest thing that you can have for that. Okay? My service industries, I'm going to point this one out. Do not undervalue your product or service by pricing too low. Our service industries traditionally do that because people don't see any value in us. Research, feedback, technology tools to help you get around some of those costs. We are so tech heavy, it is unbelievable. Our people don't do any data entry. It's so minimal. Everything is automated. You have an invoice hit your mailbox, we automate it to send it to some software. The software then takes it, categorizes it, and sends it over to QuickBooks or any other software that you have for your accounting. We don't touch it. You don't have to touch it if you don't want to, but that's up to you. I can just tell you we're not going to do it, okay? Adaptability. How adaptable is your information or your product or your service to making things? And can you adequately communicate your value, okay? Them dreaded financials. I'm sorry, they had to come up. Your profit and loss statement or statement of activity if you're a nonprofit shows your price, revenue, cost management to monitor your net profit or loss, your sales volume. Your cash flow statement tells you money in, money out, where is it going, over time, what's on credit, am I sitting here with a bunch of receivables because I have not collected from my clients? The cash outflows, expense timing, credit spending. Are my credit cards really high because I don't have the cash, because I didn't collect the money from the clients that owe me? Okay? Working capital management, inventory, you mentioned buying a lot. That all factors into it. But you need to know how much inventory you're keeping on hand. Oh, and that bottom one, I probably should have had it up at the top, industry ratios. If you go to the bank and ask them for some money, they're going to pull out industry ratios. They're going to look at everything, revenue, age of the business, how much money you're making, how much money you're paying on your expenses, and what your net profit is. They're going to look at everything, and they're going to dissect it. Did anybody go to Rebecca Goebel's session this morning? Because I know she talked about it, because she is still, in an absent kind of way, still my mentor, okay? And I love her for it, because she pulled out the industry ratios for us, and I was like, oh my God, okay? And she just inundated me with it. The SBDC has those industry ratios, and they can pull it for any industry that you are in. So do not use them because you can. Profitability, customer value need, time-driven, market-driven, economic conditions, constant monitoring, every year, look at everything, revamp your product or service offers. Do I need to change what I'm offering? Can I add something to it? Expand your reach and target. We started out here in Kansas City. Now we're trying to expand to St. Louis and to Atlanta. And you might ask, why? Two of my partners, one partner is in St. Louis and the other one is down in Atlanta. They happen to be my sons. I feel safe. They know that market. Also, I'm from St. Louis. I migrated to Kansas City. So, all right, continuous improvement and relationships. Your customers establish relationships with you. And as a result of that, 9 chances out of 10, if you're providing good service, they aren't going anywhere. Okay, so here's the fun part. Do we have time for this? Yeah, I think we do. Oh, maybe not. I was going to have you do some group exercises, which is why you have all the colored pieces of paper on the table. But I think it was more important for me to hit on some of these other things, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip the interactive session, and I'm going to go to the answer section. All right, so my first scenario was, how do you calculate the price for a pizza? You were supposed to use cost plus. This is the answer. The ingredients for the pizza cost $3.50. Your fully loaded labor costs for 15 minutes for somebody to make that pizza is $2.35 based on an hourly rate of $8. Okay? Your overhead allocation is $1, so your total cost is $6.85. Your markup is 30% or $2.06. When you add the $6.85 and the $2.06, you come up with a price of $8.91. Okay? Now, I can give you all these. We can post, I'm probably gonna figure out a way to post all of this so you can actually try it and use it and understand it. Notice my additional information. Social Security and Medicare only, no unemployment or work comp is included. If you can estimate the monthly production volume for the pizza, you can calculate a realistic overhead allocation amount per unit. The 30% markup falls within the industry norms of 20 to 40% for a restaurant or restaurant business. That's the industry norm. So I picked the middle, right? I don't want to be high, I don't want to be low, I want to be in the middle. Food cost percentage for pizzerias are between 25 to 35% of the sale price. So, is my $3.50, 25 to 30% of $8.91 for that one pizza. Now, we could adjust the overhead allocation, because again, you got to make sure you have your fully loaded costs, your overhead allocation, rent, utilities, materials, insurance, industry norms, business goals. What are you trying to get to? Okay? That's how we got to the 891. Anybody got any questions about that? Because this is the easiest.
Are you starting from, say you sell 30 pizzas a day, and then you break that revenue all the way down to this so that you're like, how do you calculate your overhead allocation? How do you know you're only gonna charge, or your only cost per unit is just $1?
Well, in this scenario,
Can you show us the scenario? I don't know if you have.
yeah, I can go back, but I knew what the cost of all this was.
Okay, so you knew, and then you divided it by what, by like 30 pieces a day?
Yeah, you have to know how many your average sales price, how many you're actually selling in a day. In a month, I would say in a month. You have to know that. You have to know what your production is. What are you selling? How many are you selling? Oh, I'm introducing a new one. Am I going to have the same numbers, right? One of the things is, let's say somebody walked in and said, hey, I noticed you don't have this kind of pizza. And multiple people are coming in and asking you for it. So then you can have an idea of projecting how many you think you're going to sell. But you gotta, but again, that market research, understanding your customer base, understanding the value that you're bringing or their need is important in doing all of this.
Because your first cost, say your first through your 10th pizza that you've ever sold is all based on assumption, right? Because
You don't have anything to base it off of, right?
Thank
You don't have anything to base it off of. So I just threw a number out and said, I want to sell a pizza. And, you know, here's what I'm going to do. And I kind of guessed at $3.50, you know, for all the stuff. But yeah, you have to have some indicators of what you're looking at. Okay? All right. So the next one is the competitive pricing. This one is extremely difficult because I base this off of a nonprofit. They're teaching text training to school districts in the area. They want to make sure that the kids are coming out tech ready, right? Number of students per session, 10 to 30. Length is 39 weeks, the school year. Workshops can be offered via remote or on-site. Frequency is 1 hour per day, 3 days per week. Monthly overhead cost for the organization is $9,000. I have interns and I have consultants. So anybody want to know how I calculated the price? I went a little deep. I went and researched cybersecurity at one of our local tech schools. I'm serious, this is what I did. I looked at their pricing, I Googled it. How much does a cybersecurity course cost? How many weeks is it? And then I divided it up to come up with this $148.54.
Can I put you in my back pocket for when I work with clients?
All right. The fully loaded labor cost for the interns is $16 without overhead per student. Again, no Social Security, no Medicare, no unemployment, no work comp. I didn't add anything in it. I just took Social Security and Medicare and said $15 an hour times 7.65%. Anybody know how many hours there are how many work hours are in a year? 2080? Yes, ma'am. Except for one thing. What if I only work 37 and a half? What if I only work a 37.5-hour work week? And when we add in holidays, we only truly work if you give 2 weeks of vacation, 1,980. And if you give it's 1,980 if you give 2 weeks of vacation and 10 holidays. It's 1,980 hours. That's how much production you're getting out of your employees. Okay? Is the nonprofit going to attempt to match the industry standards, or is the organization attempting to cover operational costs without needing continual subsidies? Everybody in here knows that nonprofits write grants. They depend on people to give to them. Are they going to sustain and continually do that, or are they going to try a different model? Ugh. You have to know the cost per student, and so you have to be able to know what your overhead and all that stuff is costing you. A hybrid model for them is probably going to be best because it takes into consideration their costs, their competitive position. They might use cost plus with a tiered pricing or sliding scale. Everybody knows our urban school districts, they can't pass tax, the real estate tax. We can't get past that in most urban cities. That's nationwide. That ain't just in KC either, because I've lived in 4 different cities, and that happens nationally. So I can't charge KCK school district, the same thing that I can charge Park Hill. Or I can charge Lee Summit. Because they ain't got the money. And I need to realize that when I'm sitting up here trying to do this, right? Can my grants fund all of it, or can they subsidize a piece of it for my students? So, I do cost plus. This is how much it costs. I'm going to write a grant. I'm going to ask my grantors, can you pay $20 per head for each student if the price is $51.50? It's probably more than that, but I mean, I'm just using that as an example. Can you help me so I can make sure that these kids are industry ready as well? Okay? And they also have to communicate their value. They have to be transparent about their pricing. They have to let people know, yeah, we're getting all this grant money, but this may run out. I got to do something to make sure that we can continue. We're sustainable as a business model. I want to keep offering this for years to come because this is our next generation that's going to take us into the next stratosphere, whatever it is. We have to be able to do that. Okay, slide back one more. Here's my dynamic pricing. Base price for a kitchen remodel is $20,000. Spring and summer is high demand. Fall and winter is low. 5 workers, $25 fully loaded. They came up with 160 hours per week, 40 hours per month, 40 hours per week, 4 weeks in a month. I tend to differ with them because it's 4.33 weeks in a month, but okay, we'll give them the 160. Overhead cost is $5,000, material cost is $8,000, desired markup 30%. But they know their customer base. So, total cost of goods sold equals $33,000. $4,000 or $20,000 for the 5 employees because it's $25, 160 hours, fully loaded at $25 a piece. $8,000 for the materials, overhead cost is $5,000, 30% markup, $9,900. I'm going to mark it up an additional 10%, so my markup for high demand is now $13,200, not the $9,900. So my cost or my price for my high demand is $46,200.
And again, markup is,
Your profit margin, yeah. I like to say profit margin. Forget this stuff. It's my profit. Okay. You can change your pricing, labor efficiency, reduced overhead, material fluctuations, customer behavior, customer segmentation, repeat customers versus new. They walked in, they got their basement finished, now they're coming back to you, they're getting the kitchen done. I don't want to charge them the same thing I charged them the last time. Time sensitivity, I need it done before Thanksgiving. It's September. Okay? And I know what my competitors are doing. Questions?
okay, so if you're changing some of these things, some of them are gonna go down, some of them are gonna go up.
Exactly.
Your time sensitivity, like delivery speed, like you just said, say it's a repeat customer, and you're trying to do a discount for that, but they want it done in 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's not really gonna fluctuate, it's gonna stay the same.
So, well, for my repeat customer, I may not charge them $46.2. Maybe I'm down to $43.2. But if you want it in 2 weeks, I might have to go up to $45. Does that make sense?
So my understanding, now that I understand a little bit more about the dynamic pricing, I was reading an article the other day that said that like big stores are looking at creating electronic like pricing, obviously, but actually changing the pricing based on the customer that is like knowing exactly what that customer's willing to pay for that product. Do you see that like just really taking off with like the advancements in the technology side, or?
With the implementation of artificial intelligence, I can envision anything happening. And I'm just being honest because they have the luxury of, they know when you walk in the store. They know when you swipe your card. They know how many times you buy something. They know when you buy it.
How do you envision small businesses being able to, you know, keep up with that and to know whether that company that they sell their product to sell for them, you know, is surge charging somebody, but they're not getting that extra profit or something like that? Do you know what I mean by that?
So if I think I understand what you're asking me, you have what we call a seller, somebody going out and selling your services or whatever.
Or like, say I make jewelry and then Target wants to sell that jewelry for me. Well, maybe they know who's willing to pay a little bit more for it. How do I
They're
know
willing
for
to
sure
pay a
that
little
I
bit
know that-
more, but they may also mark it up so that they cover their profit margin. Okay? You got to ask questions when you're in the room. You just really got to ask questions in the room.
So the speaker that was in here right before you
Mhm.
mentioned exactly that places like Target and Walmart, they're gonna want like a 30% profit margin on top and on bottom is the way she said it. And so the way they reject is if your person's profit margin is too thin, because they want from up top and bottom based on being able to undercut their competitors
Yep.
as well as being able to mark up.
So that they're getting their own profit. You come in and you say to me, I'm Target, I'm Walmart, hey, I need to sell this to you for $2. Right? They may even ask you, well, what's your profit margin? They may ask you that. Okay? Now, if you don't know, you're kind of stuck, right? So that's why all of this is so important, because you never know where that next opportunity is going to come from. And so if you say, well, I want $2, and they say, nah, we want to pay $1.85, what you going to do? If you don't have that number, you may say, well, yeah, I'll take that. And then you're losing on every item. Anybody try to buy a house 2022? When lumber was going crazy?
I was building,
Yeah.
and PVC pipe shot us. The plumbing bid jumped 30% from what they gave me originally.
Now, there are some builders who buy so much lumber and PVC pipe, it doesn't even matter if the market goes up. Because they bought it when it was low enough, and they stored it somewhere, and it didn't even affect them. I got priced out of buying a home. Totally priced out. Like, I'm still renting, and I'm livid. But I waited too long. So who am I mad at? I can't be mad at the builder. I mean, the same house that I looked at, I think in April, went up almost $150,000 by the time August hit, when I thought I was ready to buy. And I just walked away. There was nothing else I could do. It was just like, nope, can't do it, I'm out. But they know their prices, and they know when they got you. I don't know. So here's some, what I call price challenges that creep. Ooh, sales tax in Missouri. Every freaking city in Missouri has a different sales tax number. You move across the street, you may be in a different city and you forgot to change your point of sale software. Okay. Work from home requirements. What's the employee setup cost? That's what we're faced with every time we hire somebody. I got it down to the hour. Trust me. If I'm paying you so much, I know how much the other stuff is going to cost me, and I know how to calculate it. Unemployment rate changes every year. Starts out at 2.7 for new businesses, but changes every year depending on whether or not you have high turnover rates or you don't have high turnover rates. Yep. November, they send a letter out and they tell you. Okay? Shipping costs. How many of you know what the USPS zone rates are? There are 8 zones. There's charge from California to the furthest point east. Let that be your shipping rate and call it a day. Benefits, always creeping up. Employment taxes, Social Security and Medicare inclusion creep up on people because they don't include it. Nothing more, nothing less. Insurance, software subscriptions and tools, capacity. Do you have enough employees for the work that you need to have done? Fair Labor Standards Act, March 11, 2024, contractor versus employee. New law came out. Most of us didn't know about it because they kept it a secret. They have new rules. And guess what? I got caught with the fact that I didn't tell my customers that there was a new W-9 that they needed to have everybody filled out. So now we're scurrying trying to tell everybody, go get a new W-9. I was a little bit livid. Okay, because they definitely hid that one. Well, why did it happen? COVID. Everybody going to, I'm a contractor, and that's why they did it. Exempt versus non-exempt salary rates. $59,000 effective January 1, 2025 is the minimum rate for a salaried employee. It went up to $49,000 on July 1. Y'all can look up all this stuff, okay? Discounts creep up on you. You don't want to be discounted. Scope creep, my service consultants specifically. These two hit us all the time. Non-quoted services, you walk in, you ask me to do something, oh yeah, I'll get that done for you. Unknown issues, I didn't know about it. It was buried somewhere. And I wind up taking it on. New product service, underestimating costs, terms and conditions, engagement letters, unclear, terms and conditions when you're selling online or when you're selling in your store. A soft no versus no. Soft no is, really got that. I understand that that's something that you need. This one, I just can't do that for nothing. I got to charge. Hard no is, nope. Outside the scope of my contract, outside the scope of my services, I'm not doing it. We need to help you find somebody else. This is my youngest son. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Put an expiration date on your quotes if you're, expiration date on your sale. Okay? Me and you until it's me or you. That's my oldest son. Contractor versus employee. You got a bunch of contractors. I don't know how many times I've told you, you need to get them off because they're not contractors, they're employees. You choose not to. I'm sending you an email telling you about the March 11, 2024 documentation. I'm sending you all the documentation. And if the IRS and the Department of Labor come in and ask me, I'm going to show them the email. It's now me or you. It's no longer me and you. I'm out. You chose not to do it. Compliance all the time. Those are the hard ones. That's the stuff that creeps up on us all. Doesn't matter who it is. 80% of new businesses fail 80% of businesses will survive their first year. 50% will survive the first 5 years, and only 30% will survive 10 years. Where are you? Do you maintain your business's records electronically, paper or paper and pencil? Maintain them daily, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, or do you gather them at tax time? Do you have frequent conversation with your client advisory services, individual, bookkeeper, tax advisor, banker about your business goals? We don't do taxes. Don't nobody call me talking about no taxes. We don't do them, okay? Reasons why businesses fail are all of these. Change is hard, but without change, you cannot move forward. I've so enjoyed you guys today. I've enjoyed the interactive questions because if somebody doesn't ask them, we're all thinking them while we're sitting in the room, right? We're all thinking them. So as you go through the rest of GEWKC week, please speak up, because there is somebody that needs to hear the answer to that question. It's your move. Post-it notes on the table. Just leave them on the table open. Tell me what you learned today that will focus on what you will do for your business as it relates to pricing. You don't have to. I'm just asking you to. If you want me to follow up, put your name on it, email address, phone number. I will read every last one of them because I need to know how effective or ineffective I was today. Thank you for your questions. If you got any more, we'll let the next group come in. We'll bow out. I'll leave the candy on the table for the next group since it's almost 4 o'clock. Take what you feel like you need to. Thank you. There's my contact information. And I will figure out a way to post this because too many people did not make it today. And a lot of people have asked me to make sure that I have this somewhere where everybody can get it. So, thanks a lot. Thank you.